job I thought I was going to do is take this whole front axle assembly off, so it'll give me plenty of space to work, but I've noticed that there's a repair panel that's been put on here at some plate, it's been put on here at some point, and along the welds there's a fracture right the way up here. You may or may not be able to see that on the video, but crack, it goes all the way down here through the weld. So I think that to ensure that I keep the structural stability best as possible in the chassis and stop the movement, any warping from welding, I'm going to leave the axle on while I do that welding. I'll do that first. I mean, there's a lot of, it's bonded, obviously, it's bolted onto the body from the chassis, so it's pretty strong, but anything to resist any sort of warping, particularly on the chassis, I'll leave that in, clean this up, get this welded up first before I take the front end. A little tricky to get in there. I took the shock absorber out just to get a bit more access, but I'm happy that that's it's not the neatest of welds maybe, but it's strong, and I think I can see a fracture that runs behind this piece, so when I get it off I'll be able to finish it off, but at least I've got some structural integrity back into the steel before I start the movement. So it looks like the axle is held on by 4 bolts at both ends, and there are captive nuts, it looks like, yeah, in the chassis, so it shouldn't be too hard to get those out. I know this has already been taken off once. Before I do that though, I've got to get this link arm for the steering link arm taken off and out the way, and then cut a few cable ties that are holding just holding a few cables and things on it, and then take the rest, and then go for the big bolts. Oh, that came undone pretty easy. There we go. Yeah, as I say, this is only just, I think, been put back on before they sold it to me. They just put the axle back on. Right, there we go. I might leave that on and just give it a tap if I can get it on. Little ways. Let's give it a little bit of a tap, see if it comes out. Oh, blimey, here we go. This is going to be. Alright, here we go. This is where the interesting bit starts. This is going to take me a few minutes. I'll stop the video, get it loose, and then tell you what I've done. You know what they say, if you can't get it off with a hammer, use a bigger hammer. So that came off without too much trouble after I stopped the video. Now I've got these 4 to take out. I think I'm going to take 3 out and leave 1 in on each side, and then maybe get some help just to lower it down. So here we go. Easy. There we go. They're quite short, these bolts, shorter than I thought they would be. Now with the axle out the way, I've started cleaning up inside. Doesn't look too bad. This panel at the front there was a bit bent up, so I straightened that out and put some re-welded a few parts in, and I've put a panel in here as well, a plate in there where it was rusted away a little bit underneath. And now I'm gonna just change this jacking point and outrigger, which is somebody's jacked up in the wrong place at some point, and this is just, well, it's wrecked, so that needs to totally come out. I've been on the internet, I've got myself a brand new one to go into. I've got to say that the prices for panels etc for a VW bus aren't expensive, so that was quite a good deal. That's a new jacking point which goes on, fits onto the front, so I'll get that all welded on, and that then will complete pretty much the tidying up. I've just then got to cut some paint back a little bit on this, finally on this wheel arch, just make sure there's not any other nasties sitting behind it, and then get a coat of paint on. So I've prepped the underside of the bus now ready for paint. I've taken it back to bare steel best I could, and I've given it all a coat of this Hydrate 80, which is a rust converter and protector. So that's gone on, it's been on there for a few days. I've then gone around, because there seems to be quite a lot of seals underneath the front side of the bus. So I've gone with a pretty good quality seam sealer, just to patch up cover all those gaps that there may be in the seams. And now I'm going to apply a 2-part epoxy primer. This is the one I used. I used that on my MGA project. It's really good stuff. Eye-wateringly expensive, but I can't tell you. It's quite expensive stuff, but it is really good. So that will give it a seal. And then finally, I'm going to do a coat or two of Raptor. It's a polyurethane stone chip protector for under car bodies and truck beds and all that kind of stuff in black. That'll be the final coat, and then I'll be ready for a reassembly. So I finished painting the underside of the bus. The paint went on really well. It's given a good protective coating now, so that's all done. I've also degreased and cleaned up the axle and given it a coat of paint. I've replaced some of the boots which were split on either end of the track rod arms, and that's ready to go back on now. Greased it all up, all ready to go. So in my next video I'll cover the reassembly. I've got some parts I've needed to order that I couldn't find in the bus, so they've been left in the last owner's garage somewhere, I'm sure. So once I've got those parts in, I'll do a video that covers just the reassembly of the whole of the front end, reconnection of the accelerator, brakes, etc., all those sorts of things. So if you like the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.